Rikke Rønholt. See, that was brilliant. We are like back on time. The women are in charge now. We are getting on schedule. Okay, Rikke, where are you?
I'm here.
I
just wanted to congratulate you on probably being the only American I've ever met who can actually say my name.
Rikke Rønholt. I've been here for 32 years. Okay, and I'm a former soccer player, so here you go. This is Rikke. Rikke Rønholt is starting something very amazing. It's the first amateur women's World Cup. She's also a human rights activist, and she's a sports person. It's an activist World Cup. Well, apparently, we'll just let her speak for herself. There you go.
I'm trying to get Globos, but I'll just start talking. There's so many things I could say. Anyone who's ever heard me speak knows that I could go on for 4 hours, but I'll try to be brief. Your Excellency, it's an honor to meet you, and it's so great to be here today. And as always, being in this room and seeing all these shades of human is so joyful. Somebody asked me today, why are you a feminist? You know, on this Women's Day, why is it important to be a feminist? And somehow I feel like every year on International Women's Day, I feel a little more urgent about us actually achieving gender equality. I think we're running out of time, and I'll get back to that. I'll try to explain to you why I'm here talking about sport and gender equality. I actually think that we all need to find our own way into being activists and using what's in our essence. And I am quite literally, you know, Garo was talking about earlier, the power of education. I'm quite literally a child of the transformative power of education and sport. See, my mother came out of a working class household. Nobody other in her family had ever gone to high school, and she wanted to be a football player, and she went down to the football club and they laughed at her and said that women don't play football here. So she went on to become the best basketball player in Denmark instead. And she also became the first professional female basketball player in Denmark. And she got a scholarship to play in Sarajevo, in a club there. And there she met my father, who was from northern Ghana, one of 25 children, 2 of whom went to school. He was one, lucky. And when he went to school, he realized he was a really good runner as well. And he got a scholarship to study medicine at the university in Sarajevo. And there, on that track in Sarajevo, he met my mom. So they quite literally would not have met each other if it hadn't been for the power of education and sport. And I think that there's an extra, something that kind of cements the power of those two elements and how important it is that we protect those two, is that right now, you know, that track where they met in Sarajevo, it doesn't exist anymore. It was turned into a mass grave during the siege in the war. So I took my mom back to Sarajevo a few years ago. She hadn't been back since after the war, and she's like, the track is gone. It's gone. And so, yeah. So that's my way into fighting for using sport as a tool to create the world we want. I also stand here on International Women's Day with a kind of an element of shame on behalf of my generation, because as someone said earlier, I mean, I grew up thinking that everything was good, everything was cool. I mean, my parents' generation, our mothers, had already fought the fight, right? It's all sorted. And we could just kind of lay back and enjoy it. And now, looking back, and I look at how did we use that freedom that we were given, all those rights that we actually got because of what our mothers did, and all the privileges that we got. And I kind of look at my generation, I mean, look at next generation and people calling it the selfie generation. And I look at my generation, I kind of want to call it the burnout generation. Because we're the women who realized that we could do anything, and then we're hell-bent on trying to do it. No matter what it cost us, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be everything. And not even realizing that the game that we're trying to win, we didn't make that game. Right now I'm reading Michelle Obama's autobiography, and I'm realizing, okay, if one of the brightest people in the world cannot figure out how to balance being an educated woman, a mother, the wife of someone hugely important, obviously nobody can do it, because there's something wrong with the game. I mean, the game is rigged, and there is no balance. I always thought that, oh, she looks amazing, she's always so happy, and she's so warm, and she's so feminine, and then you realize the book, you realize how much of a struggle it was for her to give up her identity, her brilliance. I mean, she's a Harvard-educated lawyer, and most of the time her biggest worry was, you know, how are my girls doing? How are they doing with all this? And I think we all recognize that there's just no, it's not black and white. We don't compartmentalize. We can't just go to work and then not worry about our children. We think holistically. And this is bringing me back to why am I standing here with this ball with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals on it. I think that these goals represent a turning point in history, because this agenda, when all 193 nations got together and realized that we have 17 must-win battles for humanity right now, for our generation to solve before 2030. This is not next generation, this is like right now. We need to solve it, and it's urgent. And for the first time, we realized that it's all connected. For the first time, we realized that you cannot compartmentalize problems and solve them in a vacuum. It is, if you don't solve the oceans, we're all going to die. You're not going to have sustainable cities. You're not going to have good health. If we don't work together, we're not going to have quality education. You know, we're not going to have responsible consumption and production. I mean, there's none of these goals that you can take out of the whole and say, well, that one's not so important, or we can do that later. And in the center of it all is, you know, it's climate action. And when I look at that sense that I have of urgency on International Women's Day, it's kind of because I'm like, how did we get here? How do we get to a point where we're literally destroying the planet and we have maybe 10 years to fix it? And I realized that when you look at the world so far and you look at the, you know, who's in charge and who's making the decisions, it's still largely men. And I think this is kind of one of those who wants to be a millionaire moments where you need to call a lifeline. You need to realize there's like half of the collective intelligence and brain power of humanity is not being asked how to solve these problems. And they're the ones who understand the interconnectedness of everything, because that's just how we live. So I think that if we're going to solve this, women need to be at the center of every single solution that we come up with. And that's kind of the reason. Can you make it, oh, you want to show the movie?
I don't know which one. I just found this there.
That was good. You know what? Forget about the slides. I'm running out of time anyway. We'll show the movie in the end. The reason we created the Globos Work Up is that it was born when the Women Deliver conference was in Copenhagen in 2016, and I was in a group that was charged with sort of making sure that this massive international women's conference wasn't going to be just a closed party out in Bella Center where the rest of the Danish population wouldn't realize what was going on. And so I thought we should definitely do something with sport, because that's my world, and I think it's such an empowerment tool, and it's such a way of making whoever's on the pitch is visible, is real. You can't get around them. You step onto that pitch and you become a player. And it doesn't matter what color you have, what language you speak, where you come from. You're a player and you're protected by the rules of the pitch. So you actually get to be in the game. And to me that is so symbolic, and it's so important that we make sure that women are part of the game, literally and symbolically. And so we decided we were going to do a women's tournament, and we were going to coax these women into finding their voice in this global agenda. So we make the teams choose which of the sustainable goals they're going to play for. So whatever you're most passionate about, if you're passionate about gender equality, we have a lot of gender equality teams, but we also have a lot of quality education teams, reduced inequality teams, climate action. So whatever you're passionate about, when you set a team, you choose your goal, and then we've changed the game. So we're no longer just scoring you on how strong you are, because really, who cares? We're scoring you on your creativity, your creative style, how you express yourself, what you're wearing, how you want to be on that pitch. Let's face it, football uniforms doesn't do anything good for anyone, especially not women. We also give points for mobilizing the crowd, because you have to be able to dare to speak up and get all your friends to join your cause. So we challenge these women to say, bring your crowd, you know, and they get points for that. And then you get points for taking action for your goals. So whatever actions the teams decide leading up to the tournament they're going to do for their goals, they get points for that. They go ranked into the tournament based on the action they've taken on their goal. And then of course they do get points for goals scored. But if you win 12-0, or if you win 1-0, you get 1 point for winning the game. So that kind of equals the playing field as well. I mean, we've had national teams playing in our tournament, and they would of course win every single game. They didn't necessarily win the tournament, because maybe they hadn't spent so much time taking action for their goal or coming up with a creative uniform. So this is kind of just a new way of inviting women to play this game and be part of a global agenda that is so important. And it's such a pleasure for me being an athlete, but being an athlete who just never shut up. I was always told, do not mix politics and sport. You shut up. We're going to send you home. We're not going to hear it. And I'm like, but. And so now with these sustainable development goals, it's like finally we're allowed to have a voice, because these are so universal. They're so, I mean, of course there can be controversy of how are we going to implement the goals. That's a fight we're going to take. But you can't say, nah, I don't want to really end poverty. I mean, we even got to play in Dubai. We had a lot of teams playing for gender equality in Dubai, and I thought it was amazing. And we've also played in Kenya, we played in India, we played in Johannesburg, and we play in the United States. Every year during the UN General Assembly, we bring all the teams together. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm just going to show this little video of what we've done so far. And it's really, what makes it all worth it is seeing all these women stepping on the pitch. Some of them didn't even know they could play football. Or some of them didn't even know they had a voice as activists, and they just found it. And to me, it's worth it all. Yeah, you can play.
We are the Globos Work Up, an activist football championship. We use the power